Really glad to be here today and to have this opportunity to be part of this great session. Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about our work to connect community members with bioassessment opportunities in the LA River Watershed. And I chose this photo to start off with because I think it helps to illustrate some of the challenges that we face with urban river just access to begin with. And here we're trying to make our way down one of our concrete levees at the river, and it takes at least 4 people to stop the cart from rolling down the levee ahead of us. We are members of the Waterkeeper Alliance. This is an alliance of over 300 local organizations like ours that work around the globe on this shared mission of swimmable, fishable, and drinkable waters and achieving this for all. And we are also a proud member of the California Coastkeeper Alliance that works on this mission in the California context. And then at LA Waterkeeper, we work on this throughout LA County. So we're working on our mission of safeguarding our inland and coastal waters, and we do this primarily through enforcing laws and also empowering communities. And today I'm going to talk more about the empowering community side. And I chose this image that you see here because I think our Waterkeeper boat is very emblematic of the work that we're doing to connect community members with our waterways and to be eyes on the water around Los Angeles. And to give you an example of one of the programs, for instance, here we have our Creeks to Coast program, which I created with our Marine Programs Director to connect community members, specifically students, with opportunities to do hands-on field work at the LA River and at the Santa Monica Bay. So they're learning scientific methodologies and also, in many cases, visiting the LA River and the Pacific Ocean for the first time. All right, so today I have an opportunity to tell you about one of our programs, and I'm going to kind of set it up by telling you about the context we're working in. And so we're starting here. We have the LA River Watershed. Some people say it is kind of like a broccoli watershed because we have the head of the broccoli up in the San Gabriel, Santa Susanas, and Santa Monica mountains. It's then flowing through the San Fernando Valley, makes a sharp sort of south turn around Griffith Park if you're familiar with LA, goes down through the heart of LA, through downtown South LA, and finally down to the port by Long Beach. How many people have been to the river before? Oh my gosh, wow. Okay, that's a lot more than I expected, but not just crossing over it. Hopefully, we're seeing it from a freeway, hopefully getting down to see it. All right, so I'm putting this image next to it because it's from the Cal EnviroScreen score tool from Cal EPA, and it's showing environmental health indicators of different things like pollution burden and access to green space. And red, unfortunately, means there's the highest burden and the most challenges with environmental health. So I included this because you can see that a lot of the red, there's a lot of red to begin with, but a lot of the red really corresponds with where we have the river and where the watershed is, with the LA River Watershed. And so there are just a lot of opportunities for our communities with bringing the river back to life. All right, but this is a river that people relate to in a lot of different ways. People think about it in a variety of ways. So for instance, on the upper left-hand corner, you can see LA City Mayor Eric Garcetti, and I love this. We have this line, "Welcome to Los Angeles, where nature catches you by surprise." It's not the typical sort of understanding of nature in Los Angeles, and it's a very particular kind of experience that not everyone has every day. He's kayaking in a nice soft bottom section of the river, and that's very different. I mean, in general, a lot more people see what's on the bottom left side with a fence saying no trespassing, and nature can't really catch you by surprise because you may be in prison for 6 months if you go through this gate. So it's a very different way of experiencing the river. You also see in the middle we have a lot of new development going up along the river, especially luxury housing and a lot of concerns about gentrification and displacement. And we also have a growing population of people living along the river and experiencing homelessness. So I think the river, for a lot of people, is something that represents the kind of growing inequities that we see in LA as well. A lot of people think about the river in terms of flooding. We have a few days a year where we have a big flood rush of water coming down through the river. And so we have this legacy of thinking of the river as a place of danger. And we also have a legacy of people really interacting with the river who maybe haven't been acknowledged before. So we have a recent LA Times article here showing that people are fishing in the river and engaging with it. But maybe you can see the title calls it sewer salmon, so we're still kind of thinking about our fish in these urban terms. And finally, we have an image of the Olympics coming to LA. We're gonna have the Olympics in 2028, and a lot of the planning around the river is on the timeline of preparing for the Olympics, rather than the timeline of thinking about climate resiliency or what's needed for our communities now. So these are some of the considerations that we have in terms of relating to the river. And all of these are really playing into the planning processes that are going on right now. And there's really a lot of momentum, but we have a lot of kind of scattered momentum. We have an upper LA River process, we have a lower LA River process, we have a County of LA process, we have a City of LA process, we have many more beyond that. But we have a lot of fragmented policy processes that aren't necessarily talking to each other, and we don't have a watershed-wide process that's kind of connecting all of these and thinking about how what happens upstream affects what happens downstream. And really, I think with a lot of what we're seeing with these policy processes is that we're seeing that there's a lack of scientific focus and meaningful community participation. And I think this image here, which is a visual showing a proposed platform to cover the river, which is being proposed as part of LA County's master plan, is really emblematic of that. Because here we see we're not connecting with a healthier river, we're covering it. And in this instance, the visual that we see is of a water park being placed on top of the river and a soccer field. So, which maybe is very shocking to this group, but it's actually on the table right now. And this is especially surprising because LA County's own surveys have showed that the number 2, if you can see their goal for community members who have been engaged so far with the county process is to support healthy, connected ecosystems. And number 3 is to promote healthy, safe, clean water. So the idea of covering the river with a platform doesn't exactly seem to be in line with those ideas. And so despite all of this momentum, our calls for a healthier river continue to be ignored, and included this image because it's a $30 million bridge that's going up in Glendale, and it's really wonderful in terms of connectivity, but as you can see from the image, people remain disconnected from the river and sort of standing apart from it, and the river remains just as unhealthy as ever. So for a lot of these reasons, in addition to others, I decided to start something called the River Assessment Fieldwork Team, or RAFT. This was an opportunity to connect community members with the river and collect scientifically defensible data as well. And so our goals for the program are really to connect with the river, collect data that's valuable, and use this as part of our advocacy, as part of these planning processes and others, to advocate for maximizing the ecological integrity of the river while complementing additional bioassessment efforts. Because this is one effort among many, and it's not meant to stand alone. And in particular, we have the LA River Watershed monitoring program that goes on that we are working to complement. I learned about the California Rapid Bioassessment Protocol, which we're using in RAFT a few years ago, actually, thanks to the State Water Board's Training Academy and California Department of Fish and Wildlife's work. And I did a few courses with Jim Harrington. Not sure if he's here, but that was incredibly helpful to get a sense of this protocol that we could use that would be a complement to the swamp protocol, but that we could do with community members in a more rapid way when we don't have the resources to do the full swamp protocol together. With the California Rapid Bioassessment Protocol, we're able to generate data related to family level index after collecting BMI samples. We generate a PHAB quality score, physical habitat. We look at water quality, flow habitats. We collect a lot of the same types of data that you would in SWAMP, but in a sort of without doing the entire SWAMP protocol. We're collecting pieces of it to be able to gain a reasonable assessment of the biotic and physical conditions of our streams. And so we actually received our first round of results from our BMI samples just a few months ago. So this is a purposely overwhelming slide just to show the different metrics that we're looking at with all of our different sites. Like we're able to generate metrics about taxa richness and tolerance and composition values that we're able to then discuss with community members to kind of gain a nuanced look at the structure and function of the different sites we care about. So within this program, we've trained over 100 volunteers in the past few years, and our emphasis has really been on nurturing a core group of people who can join on a regular basis. And we meet on Saturdays because that's generally the best time for people to join us in the field, and we monitor 8 sites along the river and tributaries. So with our sites, these are targeted sites of community import that are throughout the watershed and represent a range of conditions, such as having naturalized sites, sites with concrete levees but a soft bottom, and fully concretized sites as well. And this will hopefully give you a sense of the Broccoli watershed and then some of our sites within it as well, of sort of the range that we monitor. And it seems strange to say as one of our goals, but we are demonstrating that this is a river, and this is actually something we need to do. It's still being considered a flood control channel, especially in the policy processes that we're a part of. And so just being in the river and actually being in the water and saying we're reclaiming this space is really important for the community members we're working with. And also collecting life and looking at the life that's there is incredibly meaningful, because we might look at a concrete line section and hear that, let's just cover it with a platform, but we're going in and we're looking at the insects living there and saying, there's something here and there's a lot more we could do in the future. And really this is worthy of our protection and of our restoration as well. So I wanted to give you a sense of the ways that we are thinking of applying the data that we're collecting. So for instance, we monitor a site in Northeast LA called the Arroyo Seco Confluence, and this is a site that is mentioned in LA City's revitalization master plan as a site for potential restoration and removal of concrete. So we're very excited about that, and we want to understand the pre-restoration conditions. We can also monitor it throughout the restoration process. We also monitor a site in Long Beach toward the bottom of the watershed. And for us, we're trying to understand the pre-disturbance conditions. This is actually a site that's fully concretized, but there's some concrete blocks there that allow some sediment to gather and vegetation to grow. And so we do actually see some vegetation here, but we've actually been here monitoring as bulldozers were waiting to remove it. So the conditions were about to change quite dramatically, and we were able to get a sense of what was going on prior to that. We also monitor soft bottom sites that are really actually struggling a lot more than we might think. And this is one example, the Glendale Narrows site that we have. There's a lot of vegetation, and I think because we have so many concrete line sections, a lot of people might see this from LA and think it's so healthy and it's doing so well, but with our monitoring data, we can show that it's more nuanced than that, and we need to take action to do more to protect it and bring it back to life. And this is actually a section in the LA County effort where there are talks about removing all of the vegetation from here as well. So we're thinking it's important to have these data to be able to protect it. And finally, here we have an example of a site up in the watershed, Big Hunger Creek, and this is right next to the creek. This was a site that had the highest scores when we visited in 2018. And then this is a photo from when I returned recently and found that there had been a big trash dump and sort of some illegal paving as well. And so this is an example where it's important for us to continue to visit our sites and be able to monitor change over time and disturbances as a community group, and sort of also be able to flag different sites to regulatory agencies and to our partners to take action as well. Great. We face a variety of challenges with our monitoring program, some of which I've mentioned, such as access, getting down to the river, getting through gates, closed fences, going down levees, just trying to get to the river. And then with the sections we monitor in concrete line sections, oftentimes it's been engineered so that the water can flow very quickly through the middle. So we have some challenges of getting into that water as well. Also, where is the bank when you're in a fully concretized section and the sort of natural bank has been removed and you just have a concrete levee? That's one of the questions we think about. And for instance, in the EPA bioassessment protocol, we have a question about what, rank the bank stability. And that often concerns us when we're in a concrete line section. Like, yes, the concrete levee is very stable. Doesn't mean it's great for the river, but it'll get a high score according to this methodology. So we'd like to continue the conversation around monitoring sort of highly urbanized streams and degraded streams as well. So as we're thinking about moving forward, we're planning to turn our data into not only the FLI that we have, but also use the CSCI, since it's the statewide index that is more commonly used, and then we can use it in our advocacy. We are also incorporating eDNA monitoring with the Cal eDNA program into our sites. We are planning to use the data as part of our bioobjectives and LA River advocacy. We would really like to see bioobjectives established for LA's streams. And finally, we are working on a report right now and analyzing the data with our community members, and we're planning to publish that in early 2020. It'll be on our website, and also if you want me to send you a copy, just come over after and let me know, and I'll send it to you. And I wanted to say thank you to our sponsors who allow this to happen and help us make this happen, and special thanks to a lot of the people who have been with us along every step of the way, especially Jim Harrington and Daniel Pickard, who've been incredibly helpful in helping us to get to this program off the ground. Thank you.
I think we have one question while I switch over into our next speaker. Anybody?
Just one comment, observation about the soccer fields. You're fairly new to LA, so that soccer field proposal to go over the river, that's actually progress. Soccer fields had been proposed for being in the river. When it's not flowing, the kids could play. They were already doing that. Where I had been living in Long Beach, in the name of the city, they were proposing a soccer field for the beach. There is no beach, it'll be a soccer field. But it's because of NGOs and community organizations that got involved in telling these cities and the county, don't do these things. It's incremental, so don't give up. It can happen, but we need this other generation, everybody sitting here, to get involved in your work and your stewardship, because these are long-term battles. It's not one little stupid project. It's continually, all the time, they're stupid.